Yes, the National Trust Director General has said something rather curious. She's admitted that 70% of the charity's staff are Union Jack-hating progressive activists. Yes, this was speaking at a Labour Party fringe event. The boss of the charity, Hilary McGrady, acknowledged that there was a gap between her staff's views and the views held by the wider public. So was she being honest? Joining me now to discuss this is historian and broadcaster Rafe Hadel-Mankoo, who I believe is with me. Rafe, thank you very much indeed. Can this be true?
Well, Emily, I think this should be declared the year's least surprising statistic. Nobody who's gone to any National Trust property can be surprised that most of their staff are, progressive activists who, dislike the Union flag. The founders of the National Trust and later figures involved in it, like my hero James Lees-Milne, were really motivated by love of nation. But I think that love of nation in the Trust has become actively national self-loathing. And that's really the state of modern Britain. And with the Trust, what we've done is we've actually entrusted our national heritage to those people who actually actively despise our national heritage. And it's, it's utter madness. You might as well just make Jeremy Corbyn the editor of the Jerusalem Post, or get, the monarchy, the Republic anti-monarchy campaign group to organize the coronation, because that's about as logical as this is. It's the only way you can.
They've actually been talking today about how the monarchy apparently costs us all £500 million, which I've never, ever heard before. I was very much of the impression that they brought in more than they took out of the public purse, but that's a discussion for another day. Rafe, has there been a sort of... Has this been intended? Have these people wanted to take over charities like the National Trust for their political ends, or is it just something that happens? Is it just the type of people who work in charities?
This has been part of the long march through the institutions. The National Trust is no different to any of our institutions. I've been saying for a long time on this channel and elsewhere that people need to understand that Britain is now a post-revolutionary society. So the buildings that house our institutions look the same, but the people who now run them bear no comparison to the generations who lovingly built and ran them. They are cuckoos in the nest, and we need to understand that. And of course, once you realize that, of course, that explains completely why, the National Trust and others have crudely tried to denigrate our national heroes and link them and their houses to colonialism and slavery, as they ludicrously tried to do with Sir Winston Churchill and his beloved Chartwell. We see it in the National Trust putting out a calendar which celebrates Hindu and Muslim festivals like Diwali and Ramadan, but it omits all mention of Christmas and Easter. This is clearly deliberate.
That can't be true, can it? They had a calendar that had Hindu and Muslim festivals, but not Christian.
You couldn't make this up. It's absolutely true. And I think, the more that people realize that this is just part of that wider culture war, where all of our elites who run these institutions have so little in connection with the people who actually love going to these institutions like the National Trust and so forth. And of course, the people who go to National Trust properties are actually more traditional than even the average person in the British population. And so what we can see here quite clearly is that, all of the polling shows that, 22% of the progressive activists who run places like the Trust like the country, compared to a majority of the British people who love the country. 82%, I think it is, or 85% of progressive activists like those at the Trust think immigration is a great unalloyed good, where actually it's only a minority of the wider public who believe that. And so, of course, when going to a National Trust property used to be an occasion to celebrate and glory of British heritage.
Absolutely, and to see this Director General actually admit this is quite something. Actually, Rafe Hadel-Mankoo, that gap there. We'll have to leave it there, but as always, very good to speak to you. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News.